Conflict Edge: How Great Leaders Harness Conflict for Success, by René Sonneveld. When managed well, conflict becomes a tool for innovation and resilience. The same applies to leadership in any field. Many leaders mistake the absence of conflict for harmony, but history proves otherwise. The Wright brothers debated their way to success, and the most groundbreaking companies thrive on rigorous discussion. The key isn't avoiding conflict, it's harnessing the right kind. This article explores how great leaders turn friction into progress. By understanding the difference between productive and destructive conflict, you can build a team that challenges ideas, refines strategies, and drives results. When two men in a business always agree, one of them is unnecessary. William Wrigley Jr. The silence in the conference room was deafening. Gustavo had just challenged the CEO's pet project in front of the entire leadership team. I watched closely, waiting for the inevitable backlash, but instead the CEO paused thoughtfully, leaned in, and simply said, "Tell me more." What unfolded was one of the most productive discussions I've ever witnessed, ultimately saving the company from a costly mistake. That moment clarified something crucial for me. Conflict doesn't have to be destructive. Managed wisely, it can become the engine of innovation. Apollo 11's journey to the moon took around 3 days, with 2 more for the return trip. Now, as NASA sets its sights on Mars, the complexity of planning increases exponentially. A round trip to the Red Planet, including a year-long stay, is projected to span 18 months. Alongside formidable technical challenges, NASA must grapple with inevitable conflicts among a crew confined to a spacecraft the size of a 2-bedroom apartment. NASA's research into crew dynamics offers a critical lesson for leaders everywhere. Conflict is inevitable. More importantly, when managed effectively, it can become a driver of innovation and progress. Whether leading a company, a department, or a high-stakes project, embracing this reality can set the stage for success. Rather than striving for conflict-free teams, leaders should focus on fostering the right type of conflict, one that fuels problem-solving and creative breakthroughs. Task conflict versus relationship conflict. All conflicts are not created equal. Task conflict and relationship conflict exist on opposite ends of the spectrum, and recognizing the difference is key to effective leadership. Task conflict involves disagreements about the work itself, what needs to be done, and how it should be approached. Far from being detrimental, this type of conflict invites diverse perspectives, encourages debate, and fuels better decision-making. The Wright brothers' quarrels over flight mechanics were instrumental in their historic success, while others, like Samuel Pierpont Langley, who remembers him, pursued flight with a singular vision. The Wright brothers' willingness to challenge each other's assumptions led them to victory. In contrast, relationship conflict stems from personal clashes, incompatible work styles, or fundamental differences in values and beliefs. Unlike task conflict, which can be productive, relationship conflict is toxic. It fosters resentment, erodes trust, and damages teamwork. Left unchecked, it poisons performance and morale, and leads to dysfunction and disengagement. Understanding this distinction allows leaders to harness the benefits of productive friction while minimizing the damage of interpersonal discord. The risks of avoiding conflict. Many teams mistake the absence of conflict for harmony. In reality, a lack of conflict often signals something far more insidious: apathy. In environments where dissent is stifled, creativity withers and progress stalls. History has shown that when leaders surround themselves with like-minded voices, critical blind spots emerge. In business, executives who discourage dissent risk creating an echo chamber where flawed strategies go unchallenged. This isn't just a corporate issue. It plays out in governments, advisory boards, and leadership teams of all kinds. Analysts have pointed to the Kremlin's internal culture as a factor in strategic miscalculations regarding Ukraine's resistance. But this pattern isn't limited to geopolitics. The same dynamic unfolds in boardrooms where leaders, intentionally or not, silence opposing views. Companies that sideline constructive debate often fail to anticipate market disruptions. When leaders suppress task conflict, They don't just stifle innovation. They weaken their ability to identify risks and adapt before it's too late. At the same time, some leaders take the opposite approach, embracing conflict to the point of toxicity. Elon Musk, as detailed in his latest biography, pushes his teams to engage in relentless debate, often challenging assumptions in ways that drive breakthroughs. However, his leadership style also includes public rebukes and personal attacks, blurring the line between productive tension and relationship conflict. While a culture of intellectual challenge can fuel innovation, conflict must be managed with respect, or it risks breeding fear rather than progress. At the organizational level, conflict avoidance manifests in subtle ways. Employees hesitate to challenge flawed decisions, fearing backlash or disrupting workplace harmony. Meetings become echo chambers, reinforcing outdated strategies rather than refining them. Over time, the team becomes stagnant, and the competitive edge dulls. I once worked with a team that prided itself on being aligned at all times. At first glance, this appeared to be a sign of a strong, cohesive unit, but beneath the surface, a different reality unfolded. Employees refrained from questioning leadership even when strategic initiatives lacked clarity or feasibility. Instead of voicing concerns in meetings, team members would vent privately, creating an undercurrent of frustration. When a major market shift occurred, the team was slow to respond, having never built the muscle to engage in difficult but necessary debates. By the time adjustments were made, competitors had already seized the opportunity. What was initially perceived as harmony turned out to be a liability, eroding the team's ability to adapt and compete. Cultivating a culture of constructive conflict. Leaders play a pivotal role in shaping team dynamics. Instead of discouraging disagreements, they should create a culture where task conflict thrives and relationship conflict is mitigated. Here's how. 1. Normalize debate. Encourage an environment where dissent is not just tolerated, but welcomed. Set the expectation that questioning assumptions and challenging ideas is part of the process. 2. Separate task conflict from personal conflict. Reinforce that disagreements about strategy or execution are not personal attacks. This shift in perspective helps prevent task conflict from escalating into relationship conflict. 3. Model constructive disagreement. Leaders should demonstrate how to disagree productively. When team members see leaders engaging in spirited but respectful debate, they are more likely to emulate this behavior. 4. Establish psychological safety. When employees feel safe expressing their views without fear of retribution, they are more likely to engage in meaningful discussions and contribute valuable insights. 5. Address relationship conflict early. While task conflict should be encouraged, relationship conflict must be swiftly identified and resolved before it festers. The productivity-happiness paradox. A former boss once told me, if there's no friction, you're not working closely enough. This wisdom underscores a counterintuitive truth. Teams that engage in healthy task conflict are often more productive, and productivity breeds happiness. Research supports this idea. Teams that engage in robust debates and refine their strategies through open discourse tend to perform better. In contrast, teams that avoid conflict often experience frustration due to unaddressed concerns, misaligned expectations, and stagnant decision-making. It's not always the happiest teams that achieve the best results, but those that embrace conflict as a means to progress. A culture that prioritizes productivity over superficial harmony ultimately leads to more fulfillment and engagement. The Wright brothers effect, the power of constructive conflict. Returning to the story of the Wright brothers, their success in aviation was not a product of effortless collaboration, but of relentless disagreement. They debated every aspect of their designs, from wing curvature to propulsion methods. Unlike their well-funded rival, Samuel Pierpont Langley, who worked with little internal challenge, the Wright brothers refined their approach through persistent, iterative conflict. Their willingness to engage in heated discussions ultimately led to groundbreaking innovation. This principle applies across industries, whether in tech startups, creative teams, or executive leadership. Constructive conflict is a proven catalyst for success. Leadership, turning conflict into momentum. A team's success is not determined by the absence of conflict, but by its ability to manage it effectively. Just as NASA's astronauts must navigate interpersonal tensions on long missions, business leaders must guide their teams through inevitable friction. The role of a leader is not to suppress conflict, but to channel it productively. This requires a nuanced approach, welcoming task conflict while preventing relationship conflict from taking root. It means fostering an environment where differences of opinion are assets, not liabilities. As you lead your team, embrace the wisdom of skilled navigators. The best sailors are not made in smooth seas, but in turbulent waters. The same holds true for leaders. Managing conflict is not about avoiding storms. It's about learning to sail through them. Embrace the friction, drive the success. If your team is devoid of conflict, it's time to reconsider whether you're fostering a culture of genuine collaboration or simply maintaining the illusion of harmony. Conflict is not the enemy. Mismanaged conflict is. Like the Wright brothers used task conflict as a tool to refine and improve ideas. Like NASA, anticipate interpersonal challenges and prepare to navigate them effectively. And like great leaders throughout history, recognize that the most productive teams are those that dare to debate, challenge, and push each other toward excellence. Conflict is where innovation takes shape. Lean into it, manage it wisely, and watch your team soar. How might your team's approach to conflict change if you started viewing disagreements as opportunities rather than disruptions? Thanks for listening. Please visit www.renesonneveld.com for more information or to contact René. See you next time.